Late at night, Hutch Mansell wakes to a sound downstairs. He slips out of bed, glances back at his sleeping wife, and checks on his kids. After catching a quiet signal from his son, Brady, he heads downstairs into the dark and finds two intruders already inside. He grabs a baseball bat and starts dialing 911, but is spotted instantly and held at gunpoint. They grab the cash from the pot, demand his watch, and as it comes off, Hutch clocks the tattoo on one intruder's wrist. Then they demand his wedding ring, but Hutch refuses. That's when Brady charges in, tackling the male intruder and locking him in a chokehold. Behind them, the female intruder shouts for him to let go while Hutch circles behind her, bat raised, perfectly positioned to end it, then suddenly stops and instructs Brady to let the man go. He does, and the thug immediately repays the mercy with a punch, squaring up to Hutch until his wife, Becca, appears from upstairs, pleading for them to leave. Once they're gone, Brady brushes past his father's attempt to help, simmering with anger over the moment Hutch chose not to act. Soon after, the police arrive. As they question the family, Hutch barely hears them. His eyes lock onto the pizza box still jammed under the garage door. And the humiliation hits harder than the robbery itself. Not just that he failed to protect his family, but that it happened because of a pizza box. An officer snaps him out of it, casually remarking that things would have gone very differently if it were his family. The words land heavy. As the cops leave, Becca watches Hutch in silence, her concern lingering longer than she lets on. Later, unable to sleep, Hutch leaves the bedroom and heads downstairs, settling onto the couch in the quiet house. His daughter Sammy soon joins him, curling up beside him in the dark. When he asks if she's scared, she tells him she isn't, because he's there. Morning arrives with the familiar sound of the garbage truck pulling away. Hutch rushes outside, but he's too late again. At breakfast, Brady talks about a school project on veterans, suggesting he interview him. But Hutch shuts it down, brushing off his own service as paperwork and audits, nothing worth reporting.
That makes for a pretty dry story.
Yeah, I really don't care. Just want to finish up the project and call it a day.
What about your Uncle Charlie? He was a real soldier.
You know what? I actually already left him a message. Try again later.
You tried Grandpa. He actually saw some action.
Yeah, maybe.
Have a great day.
Next, Becca notes that he missed the garbage, her tone carrying something else she doesn't say before leaving as well. The only warmth Hutch gets that day comes from his daughter, who flashes him a small orange smile on her way out. Outside, his meathead neighbor brings up the break-in, joking that he almost wishes it had happened to him so he could have gotten some exercise, needling Hutch in the process. He casually mentions his father's recent death, then pivots to showing off the Dodge Challenger he inherited from him, bragging about the V8 and how he plans to tear up the streets with it.
Pretty slick though, huh? The 72 Challenger, 4.9-liter V8, 0 to 60, and I'm about to find the fuck out.
Afterward, Hutch heads to work at his father-in-law's warehouse, where he barely gets inside before his brother-in-law, Charlie, corners him, revealing that Brady called, claiming that Hutch had the advantage and still didn't take the intruder down. Hutch just replies that he was trying to keep the damage to a minimum. That's when Charlie pulls out a gun, presses it into Hutch's chest, and tells him to use it to protect his sister. Hutch studies the weight of it for a moment before quietly stashing it inside a cereal box in the fridge. Soon after, Hutch's father-in-law Eddie, who also heard the news from Becca, tells him he's sure he did the best he could. The conversation then drifts to the warehouse. Hutch wants to buy it. Eddie admits the offer is fair but not great, and reminds Hutch he built the place from nothing. If he's going to let it go, it has to be a great offer. When he asks why Hutch even wants it, Hutch answers simply that he wants something of his own.
Hey, Hutch, I'm rooting for you.
Alone in his office, Hutch sketches the tattoo he saw on the intruder's wrist, committing it to memory. Later, he slips into another room and tunes an old shortwave radio, waiting as a cello plays faintly on the other end. When the music stops, his brother Harry comes on the line. After complimenting Harry's progress, his brother asks about last night. Hutch explains there were two intruders, both scared and in their late 20s. The woman carried an old .38 with electrical tape on the grip, and it was empty.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Harry understands immediately why Hutch hesitated, warns him he knows what he's thinking, and tells him not to do anything stupid. Hutch later visits his father, David, at the nursing home and shares a quiet dinner with him. David studies him and says he doesn't look right, then asks if Hutch remembers who they used to be, but Hutch doesn't answer. Back home, he pauses outside, watching his family through the window before going in. Inside, Sammy tells him she can't find her kitty cat bracelet, the one she left in the cash pot. Something in Hutch finally gives. He leaves without a word and drives back to the nursing home, retrieves his old FBI badge and a gun. And when David remarks on how quickly he's returned, Hutch only says there's something he has to do. Armed with the badge and the tattoo as his only lead, Hutch works his way through the city's worst tattoo parlors, asking questions. At one filthy shop, a veteran immediately calls out the badge as fake. Hutch answers by flashing a wad of cash, but the surrounding men just sneer and close in, warning him about flashing money in a place like this.
There are 3 types of people who, as you say, flash cheese. People who don't know any better, people who are seeking to intimidate, and people like me who wish with every fiber of their being that someone would try to take it from them.
That's when the veteran notices the playing card tattoo on Hutch's arm, and his tone changes instantly. He thanks Hutch for his service, disappears behind a metal door, and when it shuts, the rest of the room backs off and gives Hutch the information he's looking for. The trail leads Hutch to a rundown apartment. He forces his way inside, pistol whips the man, and demands everything they took. They hand over his watch, but insist they don't have the bracelet.
Give me the goddamn kitty cat bracelet, motherfucker!
Hutch is seconds away from pulling the trigger, until a baby's cry from the next room stops him cold. The sight of the sick child and the couple's frantic desperation drains the moment out of him. He storms out into the rain, slamming his fists into a brick wall, trying to beat the anger out of himself. Soon after, riding the bus home, Hutch watches as a car crashes outside and a group of drunk idiots pile in, loud and sloppy, clearly looking for trouble. Their attention locks onto a young girl near the back, their taunts escalating as they crowd her space. Hutch studies them, a faint smile crossing his face as he moves forward. He leads the bus driver outside, shuts the bus door, and turns to face them.
What are you still doing here, old man?
I'm gonna fuck you up.
But the thugs laugh and move in, not realizing what's coming. The first punch lands hard, snapping Hutch's head sideways, but it only opens the floodgates. He answers with a crushing blow of his own, and the bus erupts into violence. Hutch absorbs hit after hit, but keeps rising, tearing through the gang one by one in a savage brawl. When a knife sinks into his side, he grunts through it, driving his fist straight into the stabber's face. He wrenches the blade free and buries it into another thug, finishing with a savage kick that drives the steel deeper. He even tries to hang one of them, only to be tossed outside the bus window for his trouble. Inside, the man with the shattered nose screams as Hutch drags himself back up, climbs aboard again for round 2. The thugs are bloodied and beaten, but Hutch isn't finished. He orders the girl to run, rips a seatbelt loose, and dives back into the fight, trading fists for cold, efficient steel. One by one, he cuts them down. As he moves to finish the hanging thug, he spots the broken-nosed punk scrambling to reload his discarded gun. Hutch crosses the distance in seconds and smashes his throat with a metal pole, collapsing it with a sickening crunch. The man drops, choking and clawing at his neck. Hutch pauses, then jams a straw into the ruined windpipe, forcing air back into his lungs. With the violence spent, Hutch hands the driver the bus keys, limps down the street, and somehow radiates more aura than before. At home, Becca is still awake. One look at Hutch's battered body tells her everything. Without a word, she cleans and stitches his wounds. Hutch finally breaks the silence, admitting how distant they've become. Months without touch, even longer without real connection. But Becca doesn't argue. She just looks at him, the truth already written on her face, as Hutch leaves the room heavy with despair. Later, lying awake, Becca reaches out and quietly rests her hand on Hutch's arm as he sleeps. Elsewhere, Russian gangster Yulian Kuznetsov takes the stage at a nightclub, singing and dancing as the crowd cheers. In the VIP section afterward, applause follows him everywhere, except from one man who watches in silence, arms folded. Yulian casually asks his associates if they are satisfied with the security of the obshak. They assure him it's solid, until one comments that it hardly inspires confidence when the man guarding their money is busy performing on stage. That's when Yulian's mood snaps. He shatters his glass, drags the silent man forward, and brutally tears into him before killing him in front of the others, letting fear settle in their eyes. One man points out the man was a 3% stakeholder in the obshak, and notes coldly that his share now belongs to them. Moments later, a call pulls Yulian to the hospital. There, he breaks down beside his brother Teddy, the broken-nosed fool from the bus, now harboring a cooked brain and barely alive. Soon after, Yulian storms another room, savagely beating one of Teddy's friends for answers. When one shrugs that Yulian hated Teddy anyway, Yulian silences him that even though that's true, family is still family. Pressed on how to find the man responsible, one of them produces a single lead, Hutch's bus card. In the morning, Hutch moves through his routine, jogging, showering, settling into the day, unaware of how close the storm already is. At breakfast, Brady asks about his bruised face, and Hutch brushes it off, saying the other guys look worse. Before the moment passes, he tells Brady how proud he is of him for stepping up during the break-in.
You had my back, and I'm proud of you.
Letting the words land where they couldn't before. The calm breaks when Harry calls, his tone urgent. He's heard about the bus fight and makes it clear Hutch is in serious trouble. One of the men he dismantled was the brother of a powerful Russian mobster, Yulian Kuznetsov. Harry urges him to seek out an old underworld contact known only as the Barber for intel. Hutch resists at first, but the warning doesn't let go, and he finally heads downtown. The barber greets Hutch like he's been expecting him and hands over a thick file, already prepared. Inside is everything on Yulian, a vicious yet flamboyant sociopath. Yulian is well-connected, well-funded, and guards the Obshak, the Russian mob's collective cash pool, worth hundreds of millions. However, for all his wealth and power, rumors suggest Yulian wants out, fantasizing about a normal life and performing on stage like Michael Jackson, a contradiction that only makes him more dangerous. At the same time, Yulian sets his people loose. His hacker digs into Hutch's background, tracing him to a quiet family, a father in a nursing home, a life that looks aggressively ordinary. She dismisses him as harmless, but Yulian doesn't buy it.
I wouldn't worry about this Hutch guy. Your man here looks to be as vanilla as they come.
If you can't recognize a wolf in sheep's clothing, I question the viability of your employment here.
I have a friend at the Pentagon. I'll keep looking.
Leaning on her Pentagon contact with blackmail photos, she demands everything they have on Hutch Mansell. He's initially denied access to the primary records and forced downstairs into a secondary archive, where he pulls a classified file labeled Nobody. Inside are images from across the world, bodies, scenes erased, proof of Hutch's past as a government assassin sent in when problems needed to vanish. The discovery rattles the hacker. She quits on the spot, leaving Yulian with the truth and a single directive. He wants Hutch alive. That night, dinner at the Mansell house is cut short when Hutch notices 3 unfamiliar cars pulling up outside. He doesn't need a second guess. Trouble has arrived. Calmly, he orders Becca and the kids into the basement.
Don't call 911.
Killing the lights, he braces for the storm. The gunmen force their way in, and Hutch meets them with whatever's within reach, splintering a baseball bat, driving its broken end into flesh, plunging a kitchen knife, scalding with boiling water, turning plates and counters into weapons. He finally gets a gun and drops some more of them before a taser takes him down. Bound and shoved into a trunk, he's hauled away. When consciousness returns, he pops his thumb out of its socket to slip the cuffs. Grabbing a fire extinguisher, he yanks the pin and sprays it blind into the front seat, causing the car to crash. Crawling from the wreck, he leans over the black Russian, who gasps out a question.
What the hell are you?
Hutch answers with chilling honesty. He was once an auditor for the 3-letter agencies, the man sent when someone needed erasing. No arrests, just bodies left behind. But before Hutch can finish his story, the thug dies. Hutch rushes home to find the place wrecked, blood streaked across the walls and wounded men scattered on the floor. He quickly cleans himself up, then unlocks the basement. Becca and the kids step out, stunned by the destruction around them. Hutch packs the kids in the car like sardines and moves to talk to Becca. When she asks what's happening, Hutch doesn't soften it. "This is my life," he tells her, asking for one last measure of trust. She gives it and leaves to someplace safe with the children, while Hutch stays behind to deal with the mess. Alone, he plays some classic tunes and props the barely alive gunman on the couch, ready to finally finish his story. He recalls a mission years back. A man named Alan had skimmed $3 million from a military base in Rivolto, Italy. Hutch tracked him down, ready to pull the trigger, but something about Alan's remorse felt real. His plea for a second chance genuine, so Hutch spared him and walked away. A year later, Hutch checked back on Alan, fully intending to find him back in the fold. But to his surprise, Alan was living quietly in Idaho, married, kids, another on the way, working an honest job and smiling like a goddamn Buddha.
Motherfucker! I am not a jealous guy, but in that moment I wanted what Alan had.
Hutch quit after that, choosing normalcy and leaning into it harder than he ever thought possible. Looking back now, he admits he may have gone too far in the other direction. He stops talking when he realizes every man on the couch is dead. Once again, no one's listening. That's when he notices Sammy's missing kitty cat bracelet under the couch. The same bracelet Hutch just burned half the city trying to find. With no one listening, Hutch keeps on yapping, talking about how bone turns to ash at 1,500 degrees and how his basement is built to double that. Honestly, this is what happens when therapy isn't covered by insurance. The house goes up in flames soon after, fire consuming everything he left behind. Outside, Hutch carefully unlocks his neighbor's brand new Tesla and drives off, the inferno lighting the night behind him. At the nursing home, 2 of Yulian's men move on Hutch's father, David, but the old man doesn't flinch. From his chair, he produces a hidden shotgun and calmly puts them down, proving that some parts of the past never really fade. While his father handles his attackers, Hutch buys out his father-in-law's warehouse with solid gold bars, finally making the great offer Eddie has been waiting for. Charlie protests, insisting they built the place from the ground up and refusing to let it go, but when he steps up to Hutch, Hutch drops him with a single punch and sits him down like a child. Elsewhere, Yulian watches the news footage of the wrecked cars and his dead men, then orders his men to gather everyone for war. Back in the warehouse, Hutch begins turning it into a fortress, methodically rigging the building with traps and lethal surprises in anticipation of Yulian's response. When his brother calls to scold him for provoking the Russians, Hutch listens but shows no concern. This is exactly where he wants things to go. He moves next on the Obshok itself, cutting through its headquarters with cold efficiency, dropping guards as he advances deeper into the building. Along the way, he steals the Mona Lisa, hurls a man down a stairwell, and floods the sprinkler system with gasoline. Moments later, the place goes up in flames, wiping out Yulian's fortune, his prized art, and his men in one devastating fire. With the Obshok reduced to ash, Hutch walks into Yulian's nightclub and calmly sits down for a meal as the mobster's guards close in.
You have some nerve to be here, like this.
He suddenly reveals a grenade wired to detonate with a single pull, forcing Yulian to call his men off. Hutch explains that everything Yulian was protecting is already gone, and that even that doesn't settle the score, because coming after his family crossed a line that can't be walked back. Yulian fires back with the news that his brother has died in the hospital, but Hutch barely reacts, reminding him that the Obshok still needs refinancing whether he likes it or not. If Yulian truly wants out, Hutch tells him there will never be a better moment than this.
Let's both quit, right? You got a nest egg? I mean, besides for what's still smoldering. Maybe open a tiki bar in one of the lesser-known Caribbean islands and live your life far from me and mine. Think it over. I'll be nearby.
In his car afterward, Hutch closes his eyes and crosses his fingers, quietly hoping Yulian takes the offer. Instead, Yulian storms out, barking orders, and the chase is on. Gunfire rips through the streets as Hutch speeds away, a faint smile betraying that part of him has been waiting for this. The pursuit tears through the empty city, Hutch reclining his seat mid-drive to spray his Uzi out the window, then sending cars flipping into one another with sharp drifts. With Yulian still on him, Hutch leads the convoy straight to the warehouse and parks his neighbor's undamaged Tesla. Carrying Yulian's stolen painting, Hutch steps out and opens fire. The Russians answer back, one bullet tearing into Hutch's shoulder and forcing him into cover. Just as the pressure mounts, Harry appears with a rifle, casually noting that he swore he wouldn't come out of retirement to save his white ass, yet here he is. Their father also joins them, emerging from the warehouse with a shotgun and covering Hutch as he makes his way into the building. Inside, David reveals that he never really enjoyed retirement and confesses that he missed this. Following this, the 3 men turn the warehouse into a killing ground. Hutch and his father drive attackers into the traps he prepared, while Harry drops them with precise shots that funnel survivors straight into more ambushes. One man is blasted through a window, others are torn apart by hidden devices, and an entire line is wiped out by a crude but devastating mousetrap. Hutch fights with whatever's at hand, even pulling Charlie's gun from the cereal box to finish one attacker, while David coolly adds to the body count. The momentum breaks when Yulian himself storms in, shooting Harry and forcing the family to fall back. Cornered and low on ammo, Hutch listens as Yulian rants that none of this had to happen, until Hutch burned everything he owned.
Had you just stolen the shack, we could have found a way out. But to burn it all down!
I got emotional.
No, you got stupid, Mr. Mansell! And your family will pay the price!
Now, he promises, Hutch will die, and his family will follow. But Hutch barely reacts. He mutters that everyone dies, tapes an explosive charge to a reinforced door, and charges straight at Yulian through the gunfire, pulling the pin. The blast kills the mob boss instantly and ends the war. As sirens close in, Hutch thanks his brother and father and tells them to disappear. He calls Becca, telling her he owes her everything and asking for one last chance to make it right. Then he picks up a stray cat, gathers the stolen art, and walks away from the burning warehouse. The next scene finds him sitting across from two detectives. As they press him about who he really is, Hutch calmly strokes the cat and answers with a single line.
Nobody.
That ain't much of an answer.
Trust me, it's answer enough.
Before they can push further, both detectives receive a call, and their stunned expressions say it all. Without another word, Hutch is released. 3 months later, he and Becca are touring their new home. Just as the real estate agent is finishing the walkthrough, her phone rings. She passes it to Hutch, who listens briefly, then turns to her and asks whether or not the house has a basement. Which tells us everything we need to know. This story isn't over. The sequel's already out and my full recap is live. Just tap the end screen to keep on watching.